There's a patch of forest just north of Highway 32 that most people overlook. It's dense, unmarked, and easy to miss unless you're really looking. I've been hiking these woods for years, mapping trails, camping alone, chasing that feeling of being truly off the grid. It's where I go to disappear, to shed the weight of the city, and remember what quiet really sounds like, or what it used to sound like anyway. A few weeks ago, I came across something I wasn't expecting. A concrete staircase in the middle of the forest. It wasn't tucked away or half buried. It just was. A raw, gray rectangle of mossy stone, breaking through the undergrowth, with steps descending into black. No trail leading to it, no fence, no signs. Nothing to suggest it should be there, or that anyone had even known it was there. It didn't look old, not ancient anyway. Didn't look new either. It looked wrong. Like a glitch in the Matrix, something that defied the natural order of things. My first thought was that it was some kind of abandoned bunker entrance, but there was no structure around it, no indication of a building that had crumbled away. Just the stairs, a perfectly formed anomaly in the wild, unruly woods. I told myself I'd just take a quick look. A few photos, maybe a descent of a step or two, just to satisfy my curiosity. That's what I always tell myself when I stumble upon something out of the ordinary. But once I saw it, truly saw it, I couldn't leave it alone. It was like an itch I couldn't scratch, a puzzle begging to be solved, and every fiber of my being screamed at me to find out what lay at the bottom of those steps. The first time, I didn't go down. I stood at the top for maybe 10 minutes, just staring into the dark. My headlamp beam, usually a strong white tunnel in the deepest night, just seemed to get swallowed by the void below. It didn't feel like a normal dark, though. Not the kind your eyes adjust to. It was thick, like it absorbed the light from my headlamp. A palpable density that seemed to push back against the light, making the shadows at the bottom feel like solid walls. A cold dread, subtle at first, began to creep up my spine. It wasn't the fear of what might be down there, but a deeper, more primal unease about the darkness itself. It felt hungry. I tried to rationalize it. A collapsed cave? An old, forgotten well? But the perfect geometry of the stairs, the smooth concrete, defied any natural explanation. This was man-made, but for what purpose and why here? The questions gnawed at me all night. I tossed and turned, replaying the image of those descending steps in my mind, the impenetrable blackness at their base. Sleep was impossible. I came back the next day with better gear. Extra batteries, a spare flashlight, some trail markers. I even texted my coordinates to a friend, just in case. I told myself I was being cautious, that this was just another exploration, like finding an old hermit's cabin or a forgotten logging road. But truthfully, I was obsessed. The image of those stairs had dug its hooks into my mind. And I knew, with a certainty that bordered on madness, that I had to go down. I had to know what was there. The air grew colder with every step, damp and metallic like an old crawl space. The further down I went, the more the mundane sounds of the forest above, the rustling leaves, the distant hum of the highway, faded into a profound silence. The stairs went deeper than they should have. I counted over 40 steps before I even reached the bottom. My headlamp, now fully unleashed, cut through the darkness, illuminating smooth concrete walls, perfectly intact, as if someone maintained them, or never needed to. There was no graffiti, no trash, no signs of human presence, recent or otherwise, except for the stairs themselves. It was unnerving in its pristine emptiness. At the bottom was a hallway, bare concrete stretching maybe 50 feet, then turning sharply out of view. The acoustics were weird. No echo. Just this dead silence. like the space was swallowing sound. I called out, my voice swallowed instantly, leaving only a faint, dry whisper in the air. It was a silence that felt oppressive, as if the very act of sound was an intrusion. Every breath I took, every scuff of my boot on the concrete, felt amplified in its absence. I walked maybe halfway down the hall before I heard it. Not a voice, not footsteps, just a low, humming vibration, almost like the sound a phone makes on a table. Constant, faint, coming from around the corner. It was subtle, almost imperceptible at first, a tremor in the air more than a sound. But as I moved closer, it intensified. A low thrum that resonated in my chest, a discordant note in the overwhelming silence. I should have turned around. I know that now. Every instinct screamed at me to retreat, to scramble back up those 40-plus steps and into the familiar, reassuring light of the forest. But the hum, that strange, inexplicable vibration, acted like a siren song, pulling me forward. My curiosity, a fatal flaw, outweighed any sense of self-preservation. I kept going. Around the corner was another hallway, but this one sloped down, narrower, like it hadn't been built for people. The ceiling lowered, forcing me to hunch slightly, and the walls seemed to press in, a claustrophobic embrace of cold concrete. The humming was louder now. I could feel it in my teeth, a bone-deep vibration that rattled my very core. It was no longer a faint hum, but a deep, resonant thrum, a living pulse that filled the air. The walls began to change. Still concrete, but now there were seams, thin vertical lines, almost like panels. They weren't perfectly flush either. Some had faint markings, like something had scratched at them, leaving behind a faint, almost imperceptible pattern of distress. At the end of the slope was a single door, metal, seamless, not hinged, not obviously sliding. It was a flat, featureless expanse, a solid barrier against whatever lay beyond. There was no handle, just a black rectangle the size of a light switch to its right. It looked utterly alien, devoid of any familiar design or purpose. The humming, now a pervasive drone, seemed to emanate directly from behind it, a powerful, unseen force. I didn't touch it. My hand was already reaching. A stupid, involuntary action driven by sheer, overwhelming curiosity. But I didn't get the chance. As I stood there frozen, something on the other side moved. Not loudly. Just a subtle shift, like weight redistributing behind metal. A soft, internal thud, a metallic groan that vibrated through the floor and up into my feet. Then came the sound I can't explain. Not a growl, not breathing. Just presence. A heavy, unseen mass. It wasn't a sound, really, but a feeling of immense, contained power, a coiled tension that filled the space. The air grew even colder, a sudden, sharp drop that raised goosebumps on my arms. And then I saw them. 2 white lights blinked on in the seam where the door met the wall. Not bright, not mechanical. They didn't cast light. They just stared. 2 perfect, unblinking pinpricks of pure white, like eyes, watching, waiting. They weren't luminous in the way a flashlight or an LED is. They just were there, an unnerving counterpoint to the absolute darkness that surrounded them. They felt ancient, intelligent, and utterly malevolent. I backed up. Slowly at first, my mind screaming at my body to move, then faster. The primal fear that had been a low hum in my gut now exploded into a full-blown roar. I stumbled back, my eyes fixed on those 2 unblinking points of light. They didn't move. They just watched. But when I turned around to go back up the way I came, the stairs were gone. It was just walls. Smooth, blank concrete where the hallway had been seconds earlier. Like the entire structure had rearranged itself. Like it had waited for me to go deep enough. The panic was a living thing in my throat, a cold, suffocating hand. There was no trace of the opening, No indication that a passage had ever existed. Just a seamless, unyielding wall. I don't know how long I have been down here. There's no sense of time in this place. No wind, no light, except for my failing headlamp, which now seems pitifully weak. No sound except that low, constant hum, which now seems to be coming from everywhere, a pervasive drone that has become the soundtrack to my descent into madness. I walked for what felt like hours, days maybe. The hallways kept changing, turning when they shouldn't, dead-ending, looping back to places I was sure I'd already been. The hum was always there, sometimes faint, sometimes a throbbing presence, a reminder of the unseen entity that had trapped me. My headlamp flickered more often now, casting dancing shadows that played tricks on my eyes, making the smooth walls seem to ripple and shift. But nothing ever led back to the stairs. I started marking the walls with a knife. Desperate, childish scratches, simple lines and arrows, anything to give myself a sense of direction, a tangible proof of my movement. It didn't help. Every new corridor was clean. Every scratch I left vanished when I turned a corner. It was as if the very fabric of this place rejected my attempts to leave a trace, to assert my existence within its cold, indifferent grasp. I don't remember sleeping. I don't remember eating. My stomach aches with an empty hollowness, my limbs heavy with exhaustion. But the fear keeps me going. A terrible, desperate energy. But I'm still here, still breathing. A testament to a stubborn will to survive. Or perhaps a cruel joke. Eventually, I found another staircase. Not going up, going further down. It was just there, a continuation of the endless concrete labyrinth leading to another, deeper abyss. I didn't want to take it, and I told myself I wouldn't, my mind screaming in protest. But this place doesn't give you a choice. The hum intensified, a silent pressure, a gentle, inexorable push. It was an unspoken command, a terrible gravity pulling me deeper into its inescapable maw. So listen, whoever you are, whatever you are. I recorded this message and left my phone at the end of the first floor, where the walls still pretend to be walls. If the staircase ever resurfaces, if the forest allows another hiker close, maybe you'll hear me. When you do, remember this. Don't follow the stairs. No matter how curious you are, no matter how deep they go. This place isn't buried underground. It's buried beneath reality. And once you step onto that first concrete slab, you'll find that reality has a way of twisting itself until you can no longer recognize the way back. I'm still descending, still walking deeper. The hum now a part of me, a constant companion, my new heartbeat in this endless, impossible descent. And I know with a chilling certainty that I will never reach the bottom.